Hi, this is Paul, and you're listening to Cliff Richard Radio. It's time for that special interview now with Sir Cliff Richard, and on the line I have Sir Cliff.
It's Cliff Richard.
Oh, hi, Sir Cliff.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks very much.
Have you been listening to Cliff Richard Radio?
Oh, I get to hear it every now and then, but I don't always get a signal here in Barbados. So it's interesting, though, because I keep hearing stuff that I can't even remember recording, and then suddenly I recognize the melody.
That's great to hear. It's good to finally be able to play your music 24/7 for everyone to enjoy.
Well, I feel kind of privileged, really. It's amazing, and even for me, in future concerts, I mean, I've heard already a couple of songs. I'm thinking, why don't I sort of dig that one up and maybe sing it? So it's pretty good for me to listen to it. But I have to say, I don't listen all the time. I still have my favorite singers, and I'm high on the list, but not at the top.
Very good.
Okay.
Any particular artist you're listening to at the moment?
I've been sticking with the same artist for quite a long time. I like hearing people like Boz Scaggs. Yeah. I still dig up good old Everly Brothers stuff or the Eagles. So I sort of have a whole batch. I have an eclectic taste now. I play. I do like that Adele, that single track that she had called Rolling in the Deep, which I love. And if ever I get to do volume 6 of the good old rock and roll, I'd love to have a go at that.
Are we expecting a volume 2 anytime soon?
Well, I've been talking about it, but I think the new record label, Warner Brothers, wants me to do. They've got an idea of me doing a duet album, not with a multiple artist, but maybe with just one single artist. I've requested Elvis.
Oh wow, that would be fantastic.
Well, it would be, and it's possible because Natalie Cole sang with her dad, and Nat King Cole recorded way before stereo ever happened. So she was able, to do that, and it would be a dream thing for me. And of course, apart from America, where I've only had a couple of hits, everywhere else in the world that I go, all over Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, I still have people come up to me and say, oh, it was either you or Elvis or you. And so we were kind of linked, which was a big thrill for me because he was my big inspiration. And it would be a personal dream come true, but I think it might be of great interest around the world, even in South America, where my records were played. Perhaps the only place they wouldn't be interested in hearing me sing with Elvis is actually the USA, but, that's just one country, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Hey, you never know.
You never know.
Would you have a certain song in mind of Elvis's?
All of them. What I'd like to do is an album of stuff, of all his greatest stuff right from the word go. And the only one that I think I would leave alone would be Heartbreak Hotel.
Oh, yes.
Because that to me is absolutely classic Elvis. I wouldn't want to break into that. But when you get things like All Shook Up and Teddy Bear and Too Much and a whole bunch of his other fantastic rock and roll singles, I could fit into those fairly simply, and it would be I think it would be of great interest.
Yeah, that would certainly be fantastic to hear. Definitely be fantastic.
Well, we'll try and talk to somebody at the Presley end and see if anybody else can get excited. If they can, I actually have a painting back home, which I think would make a great sleeve, because there was a Spanish painter who came and painted me and Mick Jagger and a few other people, Sting, I think, and he did them for charity. And I gave him a commission. I said, this one I'll pay you for. And I got a picture of Elvis when he was about 24 or something, and me when I was about 44 or something, me singing and Elvis clicking his fingers, and we look as though we're on stage together. So I already have the sleeve, I just don't have the go ahead.
Well, let's hope you get it sometime soon. That would be fantastic.
I think so.
I'm sure we can all rally around you and petition if need be.
Well, that might help too. I think that it's very difficult for record companies these days. Their budgets are incredibly low, and they've got to be really careful. And I can understand, Elvis is a very, very still a very popular commodity, and I don't think they would want to do anything quickly or rush into anything. And I just hope that if they think about it long enough or carefully enough, they'll see that there is great potential, really, to sell more records of Elvis. And, of course, I would be part of it, which would be nice. I think everything's in favor of it, except I can't make up their mind for them.
Yeah, exactly. Are you happy with the success of the fabulous rock and roll songbook?
Oh, the first one, I was really thrilled with it. I've already figured out what to do for the next one, and I looked at the songs again, because when we did the first one, sometimes well, I looked at the most obvious things, and I did the most obvious things, and they're all classic rock and roll songs. When I looked more deeply into that period, I found a whole bunch of stuff that's really fantastic. I feel just by thinking in my head about these songs that I've chosen that it could well be an improvement on the first. And I'd already thought that we pretty well did it live when we recorded the first time with very little overdubs. In fact, the only overdubbing was done by the keyboard player because on one or two tracks we wanted to have him, having played piano, we wanted to have him do a tiny bit of strings on one of the tracks, and also we needed an organ sound on one of the tracks. So there was very little of the high-tech approach to recording. And I thought next time I do, if I do volume 2, I would like to sort of do it live and then sit back with the musicians and say, okay, Mr. Drummer, what would you add to that? If you thought you could make it better in any way, what would you do in terms of percussion? And if he came up with an idea, we'd stick it on, which would immediately give the whole album another feel, but would still keep that same basic live excitement.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. The Still Reading and Rocking Tour was one of your fantastic concerts. And I enjoyed over here in New Zealand when you'd done I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine. That was a fabulous version. Well,
again, there's songs that meant a great deal to me, and sometimes I thought that the public, a lot of the public don't get to hear those songs very often. They may remember them from way, way back, but they're not songs that I hear regularly on the radio. But they were kind of favorites of mine. And even Charlie Gracie's Fabulous. I really enjoyed putting that together because I was a fan of his right from the word go, and I've already got down one of his tracks. Do you remember a song called Butterfly?
Oh, yes, yes.
It was recorded by Andy Williams, in fact, but Charlie Gracie wrote that.
Yep.
And so I thought we could do a really good kind of beefed up rock and roll version of it, the way Charlie might have done it had he had it released as. I think he may have recorded it, actually. He must have done it. I'll give a listen to what he did because he knows what he's doing.
Well, sounds absolutely fantastic to hear. Are you looking forward to a European League of Still Reeling?
Yeah, I am actually, because what I'll do is, it's pretty well the same show. What I'll do is I'll probably take out 2 or 3 songs and put in 2 or 3 more a couple more from the album. I certainly want to do the Chuck Berry Johnny B. Good track.
Oh, yes.
And one of my favorite tracks, I think one of the tracks that came out of nowhere. I never thought that when we first tried it in the studio, we thought, it sounds a bit retro. So we changed the tempo and kind of halved the riff of the guitar. And Such a Night has become one of my favorite tracks on the album now. So I'd like to stick that in just for my sake, and I'm hoping people will like it as well.
Oh, no, certainly. When I do request shows, they always tend to request Such a Night and Dream Lover all the time.
Oh, do they? Oh, that's
Yep.
interesting. And that would be great then. Well, that gives me great encouragement, because if I do it, obviously, sometimes I do things because I just love singing them. And it really does count if the public like it too. And if the public don't like it, I tend to dump it afterwards. But if as you say, they're liking it, then maybe I've hit on the right track.
Yes. Also another one of my favourites from the album is Give Me One More Sunny Day. It's one of your
Well,
originals.
of course, yeah, I had no intention of doing a brand new song, but the record company wanted one brand new song on it. And fortunately, the producer, Steve Mandel, and Ray Childs, his writing partner, had a new song, and they played it to me, and I said, oh, that's fantastic. I said, to me that sounded as though if we were 25 years back, it could be potentially a single. And but we don't really, singles aren't really great sellers anymore. But so therefore I put it on the album, and I've had a lot of good comments about that song. And it's strange because when you listen to the whole album and that comes up at the end, you realize how different. I mean, even I sound different to me when I sing that contemporary pop song. It's completely different the way they played it. They didn't play it like Chuck Berry or anything like that. It was really fascinating to me to see that if you get a brand new song, it sounds completely different to the fabulous 58, 60s rock and roll stuff.
Yeah. Do you ever think you'll release a whole new album again of new material?
I really don't know. It really depends how everything goes with Warner Brothers now. They're my new record company. And in America, I'm released on Rhino.
Oh, yes.
No, I think in Britain too, Rhino. Maybe in Australia too, I don't know.
Yes,
and
you are.
Rhino tends to be there. Yeah, it's the sort of retro area of Warner Brothers. So they like to do all these old albums and put out compilations. And I talked to one of the guys recently, and he's very keen that we work on some of my back catalog. And I said, oh, please let me be in on the choices, because, I know he knew them, actually. I was so impressed by an American who actually knew all about I'm No Hero and stuff like that. So I said, just let me be part of the choices, and I'll be very happy about it. So you never know. If they feel excited at some point and say, let's go in and do a brand new bunch of songs, I'd be happy to do it. But Paul, I don't think things are going to change enough for me to be able to do that, because new material by people like me it's not played on the radio very, very much, if at all. And so I don't want to waste musicians' time and the record company's money, and make a flop. I'd rather do things like rock and roll songbook, because there's a potential market already there of people that might remember that and like a new version of it. So at least I feel I can keep recording, which is, for me, a big dream. I never thought I'd still be recording records, and to have my 100th album go in the top 10 in Britain was beyond my dreams. And I don't know if you know, but the DVD went to #1.
Oh, yes.
And I have no expectations anymore. I feel as I'm, heading towards my sell-by date, maybe past it. But every now and then something like this happens, and I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe if I still have something to offer, I can still be acceptable in the charts.
It's good to see that it's still at #5, your DVD.
Yes, it's for me, it's a great thrill, because again, there's a lot of great competition out there, and you've got all the big boy bands and brand new singers around, and they're all pretty darn good. It's not like there's no way I can ever have it my own way. But to be able to go through and actually get to #1, and I kept thinking to myself, isn't that funny that after all these years, I can still compete in certain areas, and I laugh when I think that sometimes these young guys have still got to get past people like me, not just me, but there are others of my age who also can have success, and it's great for our industry that we can all be in the charts together.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, it must be quite disappointing when you record an album, something is going on, and realise I want to be to not get the same response.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. I mean, I had a terrible time with EMI for a while. They promised me the earth for Real As I Want to Be, and it came in at #7. It crashed into #7 in the charts. And but they had a change. Sometimes record companies, they have a big change of personnel.
Oh, yes.
And the personnel that were working on that album all got moved. And so it just flopped. They pulled it. I didn't get any help from them at all. There was no posters around, no TV campaign, nothing. So I got very angry. I've never been angry before, and that was the last one of a contract. So I didn't sign with them for quite a while.
No, it was a great album, and so was Something's Going On. It's always great to play that all the time.
Really? Well, it's interesting that Something's Going On, when I got back from Nashville and it was released in Britain, I got some of the best reviews that I've ever had for an album. The best. I even got played, I don't know if you know, on your side of the world, we have a radio station, Radio 4, which is a news program, really. It's a talk station. And they have a very popular, from 6 till 9 in the morning, information for people getting ready for work and going to school or whatever. And they gave me about a 6-minute slot and played tracks from the album, and they were just raving about it. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, fantastic. But in the end, you do need that kind of rotational airplay. If you're going to be like One Direction and other great new bands, you need the same amount of airplay as they get to be able to compete at all. And so that didn't happen with that album, and it was a disappointment for me. But I can, as I say, I can still record. I can still, if I do a duets album, it's considered like a project. It's not perhaps not brand new songs. Maybe I could sing 1 or 2 new songs into an album, but it's a project that can reach to certain people. And it just means that I can still consider myself a recording artist. I've never stopped thinking of myself as anything other than that. And the fact that I can still go in and do the Fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook, for me, it's fine for me. I'm kind of happy that at this stage of my career and my life, I can still be there in some small way.
It's fantastic. And even I got the chance to hear What Car when you performed it here last year, and you're still reeling to fantastic to hear those songs live. Yeah,
it was. I guess in the future there'll still be songs from that album that I can pick out that were really good. There's a couple of wonderful ballads on there, And Thousand Miles to Go is a personal favorite, real good rock and roll, country rock and roll song.
Yes.
So I guess in the future, even if I can't record songs like that, I could still do them live. And if the public like them, that's just enough. That's enough, actually.
Do you have a favorite album of yours?
Um, do you know, I think I haven't played it for a long time, but the Rock and Roll Juvenile album for me was a good. I really enjoyed that album. But you know, the albums I did with Alan Tarney and Bruce Welch, I mean, they pulled something new from me. Bruce made me. He stretched my voice. He said, "You can sing up there, so get up there and sing." And it was a really nice, interesting time for me with Bruce and with Alan Tarney, Terry Britton. So their albums, all their albums, they're my favorite albums actually of all time. But I do have a soft spot for Rock and Roll Juvenile.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album with Carrie and of course We Don't Talk Anymore.
Yes, actually, and We Don't Talk Anymore was never meant to be on that album. Terry and I were working on the album, the Rock and Roll Juvenile album, when Bruce and Alan Tarney came in one session and just hung out with us, and we wondered why they were there. And during a break, they said, "Oh, look, we've got this track. We think it would be great for you." And they played it. And of course, we all fell about thinking, "Oh, this is fantastic." So I said, "Oh, yeah, keep it for me. And the next album, I'll do it." They said, "No, no, no, no. We think it's got to be done now." And they were right, of course. So I went in with Alan and Bruce and put my vocals. Alan and Tarney had already made the track. And in point of fact, it's a little bit high for me. But when you're recording, you know, you can go over things over and over and over till you get it right. When I do it on stage, sometimes I do it in the same key, but sometimes if my voice is not feeling too easy, I take it down a tone, which is where I would have liked it in the first place. But these guys know, you know, producers know what they want. And really, as a singer, you feel like you're really like an actor in the hands of a director. And so when they say, try this, try that, I try it. And sometimes I'm amazed at how good it sounds when I've given it my all. So We Don't Talk Anymore was a little stretch for me. Some very high falsetto there that maybe I don't even have in my voice anymore. I don't know. But it was a great thing. And of course, I'm glad it went on that album. And it was a number one in quite a number of countries in the world.
Yeah, it's a fantastic song. How do you go about choosing what songs to sing on your upcoming concerts? Is it quite hard, or do you have?
Yeah, it is a little difficult. There are certain songs that I feel I'm unable to leave out. Everybody has memories of going to school or going on holidays, singing Summer Holiday. People remember the young ones. They remember Living Doll. And so there are certain songs that I feel I just have to do. And I do them because it still gives me plenty of time to do some of other hits. You know, of course, I can still do Wired for Sound and Devil Woman, We Don't Talk Anymore. And every now and then I slip Carrie or Greenlight into a live show. But the Reeling and the Rocking show gave me a chance to do a lot more of the rock and roll stuff. And as you remember, I kind of finished the show with about a 7 or 8 minute medley of all the rock and roll stuff that I'd recorded. And it was, for me, I think even the band, we all found it really exciting to do those songs again. I guess we did them slightly differently, but they were all totally recognizable. And again, the main reason why you repeat them is because when you do them, the public like it, and you think, okay, we made the right choice.
Oh, it's fantastic, and good to see. Good to hear Ocean Deep. I was always wanting to hear that song live, and I finally got the chance to hear it. I'm still reeling.
Yeah, that's got a good story behind it because I was on tour once, but before I left for the tour, a cassette came through the post, and it's rare to get things from the street, so to speak, that really are good enough. Anyway, I just put the cassette. I said, well, I'm going on tour. I'll hear it when I come back. So like 4 weeks later, I came back and found another 2 cassettes because it said, don't forget, this is definitely the hit for Cliff. This is the ballad for Cliff Richard. And they kept on sending me cassettes. And in the end, I thought, I've got to sit down and listen to this. And of course, when I heard it, I just loved it instantly. There are certain songs that you like instantly. And that's definitely one of them. So I went in and recorded it. And it's become a bit like Miss Unites, really, because Miss Unites was never really a massive hit anywhere. I always make a joke of it, saying that it crashed in at number 107 or something in Australia, and that was the highest position it got. But everywhere I go, including Australia, that seems to be one of the favorite choices for people who want to hear me sing it live on stage. And now Ocean Deep has come sometimes one ahead of it. So I'm very happy to have ballads like that to sing. I mean, I've been very fortunate in my career that I've been given some dream songs to do, and those two songs are definitely dreams.
Fantastic songs. And also, I seen a sign in one of your shows in England. I managed to get to Hatfield and seen a sign that said, Cliff is hotter than Robbie. How did that sign make you feel?
Oh, I loved it. I used to love it. I used to pretend I hadn't seen it before, and I'd read it out and go, "Yeah, you're right." It was very sweet, and then they do that occasionally. Yeah, I must admit I have a really nice bunch of fans. I enjoy them. They're very warm with their welcome for us all, and every now and then they'll come up with something like that, and it's great fun. And I don't just enjoy it, the whole band loves the feeling that the audience feel that warm towards us.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's good to see even on my Cliff Richard Radio Facebook page that the fans vary in age. I mean, there's someone that on there that's 12, and they vary in age.
Well, they do. They don't vary as much as they used to, or should I say, there was a time, say 25 years ago, 30 years ago, like 20 years, 25 years into my career, when I would go out on stage, and the people that came to the front of the stage, I'd usually recognize many of them, and then suddenly there would be a group of 10, 12 people who were probably in their early 20s, and I'm thinking, how the heck did they get there? Why would they be there? And then, of course, I realized that we were still getting airplay on the radio in those days. And so, therefore, some of the younger element of the audience would hear a track. Maybe they heard We Don't Talk Anymore for the first time on the radio and said, oh, that's Cliff Richard? Oh, well, he's coming to town. We'll go and see him. And so that's another element that radio has removed from us, in that I can't really pick up too many of a younger age group, because they all listen to a different radio station. They're probably not attuned into gold stations where they might hear mine and the Shadows and Elton John and Tina Turner and people like that. And so therefore we don't pick up as many of the younger generation as we used to be able to pick up 25, 30 years ago. But yeah, I know there are people, and of course, I make a joke of, if I see a 12-year-old in an audience, I always say, well, your mum must have brought you up really well for you to want to be here. And it's a great thrill to see people that age. And also, it's also a frustration, because you know that if one 12-year-old could hear you and like you, there might well be a couple more around there somewhere, if they could just get to listen to your music.
Yeah, well, I work in a retail shop that sells albums as well, and I always put on Cliff Richard all the time, and I think my co-workers and colleagues have gotten used to the fact that Cliff Richard's music has become a part of my life. And they're like,
"Well, Paul, I'm thrilled. And you've still got the job, right?"
Oh, certainly. and they're like, but you're 29, but why are you into that kind of music? And I said, well, it's the best.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much. I take that as a great compliment.
Well, in fact, I had the fabulous rock and roll songbook on playing over the loudspeakers at work a couple of weeks ago, and I had a lady come up to me and ask, who is this singer? And I said to her, well, it's Sir Cliff Richard. And she's like, are you serious? Is that Cliff Richard? And I was like, no, it certainly is. And I had to take her over to where the album was, and she brought a copy of it, and she said, you know what, I've never bought a Cliff Richard album before in my life.
Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful news to hear. I mean, that's the kind of thing I kind of dream of sometimes, that people might just hear it and like it. But I don't often hear that happens. But that's fantastic, Paul. That's great stuff.
Oh,
I actually can tell you that I did an interview publicizing the album, and I was talking to someone in Australia, actually, not New Zealand, a journalist, and he said that he had played the whole album through. While he was playing it, his, I don't know, her late teens or early 20s daughter came in and said, oh, are they new songs? And he said, no, and it's not a new singer either. And she heard it and she said similarly, well, that's Cliff Richard. Anyway, she apparently went on her Facebook and told people about it. So that's a nice thing to hear as well. That so suddenly someone who didn't expect anything of someone like me can find that they could possibly like something that I'd record.
Oh, it's fantastic, and we have I sell TVs, so we have 70 TVs, and occasionally there's always still reeling and rocking, so you're playing on 70 TVs at my work most of the time.
Well, I hope I don't ruin your career.
No, it's fantastic. You always get people just standing there and staring and listening away, and they're tapping their feet, so it's good.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean but that's the way it happens. If you could, if radio was to do what you're doing for, Tina Turner and Eric Clapton and me and Elton and people like that, we'd still be able to compete. I think we wouldn't always win the race, but no one ever wins the race every time. It's just that I keep thinking about tennis players that I've met, and they're still at 30, like Federer at 32, still can play against an 18-year-old, and he may lose, but he may win. Whereas in our world, it seems that we've been taken out of the competition, which seems very strange to me. But that's life, and I've kind of rolled with it by now, and I've got used to it, and there's nothing anyone can do, and I'm still enjoying my life and my career. So it's just an element that's been taken away.
That's fantastic. That's what I thought. Starting up the radio station, I mean, you've got such a fantastic back catalogue that the world doesn't hear much.
Well, that's true. I mean, even I don't. I mean, as I said to you when we started talking, that sometimes when I listen to that Cliff Richard radio station of yours, I mean, I can't believe that something starts and I'm thinking that's not my record. It can't be. I don't remember that intro, strings all pulling away somewhere, and then suddenly the chorus comes and I'm thinking, oh yes, I do remember doing that, and so it's been interesting for me as the artist who's you're playing. That I'm hearing things that I haven't heard since the day I recorded it. Because sometimes we go into the studios and you make an album, and sometimes you don't sing. There's a 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks on an album that maybe you never, ever do live because they were never individual hits. And of course, once you have 2 or 3 hits from an album, when you go on tour, those are the songs that people want to hear, quite understandably.
Do you have a particular favorite song or songs that you like to hear of your own?
Yeah, well, there's a number. I still like to listen to. I like classic pop ballads like Some People. Green Light is still one of my favorites. There's a whole bunch of, Hot Shot on the Terry Britten album, the Rock and Roll Juvenile. There are certain ones that I kind of have a leaning towards because they're kind of my personal type of rock and roll, and I love those kind of songs. But most of the time, Paul, I've never recorded a song I don't like.
Oh, yes.
It just turns out that what happens is that you make an album and 1 or 2 tracks become your favorites. But I wouldn't dream of going into a studio with a song I didn't like. So in the end, I like them all. I actually like them all. I enjoyed recording them. And of course, I've had a diverse recording career because Norrie Paramore, the original producer who worked for EMI, got me into the studios with orchestras really early in my career. Way back in 1961 and 62 or something like that. And I was singing with an orchestra, classic, American songbook songs. And so I had a chance to sort of stretch my vocal cords really early and sing everything from those kind of jazzy ballads through to country music, rock and roll. And when I did Thief in the Night, it's the only time I ever got played on a heavy metal station.
Well, that certainly is a fantastic song, Thief in the Night. And
yeah.
Would you ever considering doing a concert like The Event ever again?
Like The Event? Yeah, but The Event was special because we did it for 2 nights, and we had 72,000 people a night, and we built this massive stage. And of course, it's a huge gamble now to do something like that because, again, when I can't fill stadiums like that anymore. It's someone else is doing what I did 30 years ago, and quite rightly so. And you have to kind of move aside and let the new Michael Bublé's come and show what they can do. And they can do wonderful things too. I've not seen him yet, but I'm dying to see his show. I've heard he's a great performer. So yes, in my head, I think to myself, I would love to do a 5-hour show, sing with different people, which is what happened those 2 nights. But whether or not I could draw 144,000 people to come in, we'd never be able to afford to put it on. It cost about £2.4 million to put on that show. So it was a massive, massive investment, and I guess those days are really behind me. But at least I've got the DVD. It's there. I did do it.
That is a fantastic show. Do you prefer performing to large crowds of fans or in smaller arenas now?
The event was fantastic. I loved the event. There was for 72,000 people, there was an intimacy and a warmth that was there. It was a wonderful atmosphere. They seemed to love everything that went on. Personally, I would rather play 2,000, 3,000 seaters. That's real intimacy. You can almost see the back row, and you know that you don't necessarily need big screens up, that people everywhere can see you doing what you're doing. They can see your facial expressions, see certainly the physical movements. So ideally, that they're where I would probably most enjoy performing. But no, the event was different. The event was something special, and I'm so glad I did it. And I did. All of us loved it. I don't know that I could ever do it again, but it's certainly something that I'm glad I did.
Fantastic to hear. Coming up 56 years, it's a long time in show business, and you must have a lot of special memories. Is there any that stick out in your mind of most memorable?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, my very first record going to #2 in the charts in Britain was unbelievable. I could never have dreamed of being in the charts. And waking up one morning and seeing headlines like Cliff and Elvis battle it out in the charts. I never dreamed my name would be alongside Elvis's. So all those are magic moments. Young ones. I mean, it was the fastest selling #1 I had until that time. That was the first really fast seller. I think it was released Friday or something, and 3 days later it was #1. It went straight in at #1, stayed there for a long, long time. And of course the Knighthood. How could I have ever dreamed of a Knighthood? You can dream of a gold disc, because if you make a record, there's a potential market that might take it to a million seller. But the Knighthood came off the wall for me.
And of course, you were the first night of pop too, by the way.
I was, although technically I was the first night of pop. But remember, Bob Geldof actually got an honorary knighthood. So he was the first pop singer to get a knighthood of sorts, but because he's not English, and because he's Irish, he got an honorary knighthood. But a full knighthood, yes, you're right. I was the first.
How do you feel when a tour ends and you go backstage and you know that's it? Do you have a feeling of you're going to miss it, or?
Yeah, we do. Because when we've toured, I've always worked with people I like. I've often thought that, even more than giving an audition, a personality test is vital. We all, fortunately, in every situation I've been in, we've all got on really well. We dine together, we go to movies together, we sing together. And so there's always that feeling, oh no, here we go. Because our industry is very strange in that respect. You can very rarely get to build on a relationship. 1 minute you're working with some people. One of the guys who was with me, Stuart, who was singing and playing guitar, he's got a fantastic offer and is now, as we speak, touring with a musical called Once.
Oh, wow.
It's a Irish story, and he's got the lead in it. And of course, I've lost him. I've found somebody else, of course, and I believe that he will be very good too. But I've always looked for the best. And when I got Terry Britton to play guitar for me and Alan Tarney played bass, you just knew in your heart that they're so good. They were so good at playing, so good at writing. There's no way I would be able to just keep them in my band as much as I'd love to. So at least I feel kind of honored and privileged that I found them, and then they went on and did great things. So that I can hold that little lamp.
Yes, and of course Susie. It was great to see you duetting with Susie as well. It was fantastic to see.
A great addition to the show, because having a female singer means I can do that sort of thing. In the past, I've sung duets with the guys in the band. We've done sort of Everly Brother material and things like that. But having Susie there and doing a couple of the ballads like Suddenly and 12th of Never, it's fantastic, and she is a wonderful, wonderful singer. I mean, I could possibly lose her as well, but I hope not.
She is fantastic, and I was chatting to her on Twitter the other day, and she said to me, "Don't be nervous about talking to Sir Cliff. He's the nicest person on the planet."
Oh, dear. Oh, she obviously wants the job.
Aside from music, do you have any other hobbies? Do you read or anything like that?
I read quite a lot. I got a Kindle given to me, and it's really. I never thought I'd get into it because I always like to have a book. But it's funny how you can change your mind, because the Kindle suddenly became so easy. You just go to Amazon store and you look up either a title or an artist or a writer's name, and up comes a whole series of books. And I've just been through. I discovered a writer called Vince Flynn, and one of his main characters is called Mitch Rapp. And I read, I think it's 12 books, and they are fantastic. If you like thrillers, if you like people that can fight baddies really well. It's just incredible. It's got a political aspect to it as well. It's just fantastic. So the Kindle's been great. I've read a lot, and I like to play tennis, as you know. So I play tennis when I can. It's not just for keeping fit. I actually like hitting the ball over the net. I'm not very good at it. I'll never be great, but I enjoy it. And every now and then I get a slice backhand that they're not able to return, and I'm punching the air like thinking I'm Federer.
Did you get to watch any TV programs? Do you still get to check in with Coronation Street every now and again?
No, I've given up watching Coronation Street. I used to love that show, but when I used to go away, my sister used to house sit for me, and she used to put them onto cassettes. And so I'd come home, and there'd be like a 2-foot stack of cassettes, and she said, "There's 3 on each." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't think I can sit and watch it all. I travel a lot now, and spent a lot of time in Barbados and in Portugal, and I just can't keep up with it all. I do cheat though. What I do is I wait for a series like Downton Abbey to finish, and then I buy the DVDs. And here in Barbados, many times I've watched the whole series in about 5 days. You know, just watch 3 or 4, maybe 5 a night. And I must admit, it's a great way of watching. You don't have to wait for a whole week to go by, and so they're great series, and that's what I do. I find TV series I like. I did that with 24. I also did it with a show that's one of my favorites called Brothers and Sisters.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely terrific. So yeah, although I don't watch TV, I see a lot of TV shows.
It's always great to see them on DVDs. You don't have to put up with ads, and whenever there's a cliffhanger, you can just
that's right.
quickly go to the next scene.
I can never understand why the ads are louder than the show. You kind of turn down the ads a bit so it's normal, and then by the time the show comes on, you have to turn everything up again to hear them all.
If you could go back in time, would there be anything you would do differently?
No, do you know, Paul, I wouldn't. You know, if you watch, did you ever see Back to the Future?
Yes.
I think most people have seen that film. If you change something in the past, and I kind of feel this is absolutely right, you change one little thing in the past, and almost everything in the future is affected by it. So here I am, 2014. I'm happy with where I am, what I am, who I am, what I do. And so if I'm happy with all of that, I don't think I would change anything. Even something that I maybe I thought was a mistake to do. I think leave it where it was, because I learned something from it, and it's brought me to where I am. So no, I wouldn't change anything. Oh, Paul, I'm being told it's always time to wrap up.
Oh, no worries. Thanks very much for allowing me to speak to you. It's been a great honor and privilege to get this chance to speak to you.
No, Paul, thank you very much for the time, and I do wish you well with all that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll hopefully talk soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Cheers, Paul. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.